You're welcome back to the news at 10. The federal government has warned that any security threat to the cleanup process for oil spills in communities in Ogoniland will attract severe consequences. Speaking at a sensitization meeting in Port Harcourt, the River State capital, the Minister of Environment, Amina Mohammed, advised the people of Ogoniland to cooperate with federal authorities. President Muhammadu Buhari is expected to launch the exercise on June 2nd.
This is part of the oil-impacted community in Ogoniland in Rivers State. According to the United Nations Environmental Program, UNEP, there are over 200 locations like this across Ogoniland. At the request of the federal government, UNEP conducted an independent assessment of the affected communities and made recommendations for remediation. Ahead of the implementation of the report, this meeting has been convened to ensure interests of all those affected are represented in the cleanup process. The federal government and the Rivers State government are working together for the execution of the cleanup exercise.
Our own children must stop doing the breakages that we see. The illegal breakages that we see of the pipelines must stop. This administration stands for the rule of law. And the rule of law is that those young people are harming their communities. And one thing this administration will not tolerate is anyone harming any community, especially in Ogoniland and in the Niger Delta as we begin this cleanup. That's incredibly important for us to get that message across, that the rule of law will prevail.
We cannot afford to play politics with issues bordering on our people drinking water contaminated with carcinogenic benzene that is 900 times above acceptable WHO level. What are we playing politics for? Meanwhile, as we are playing politics, people are dying.
The UNEP report is acceptable to many residents of the Ogoni community, and government is willing to use the report as a starting point in the cleanup process. The people support this approach.
Please, my dear brothers and sisters of Ogoniland, let us allow peace to reign. Put your politics, you will continue to play politics. We played politics so many years ago, and we are still playing it till now. Let us allow this one to go.
According to the UNEP report, the full environmental restoration of Ogoniland will take between 25 and 30 years. The government is asking the people to be patient while the exercise lasts.
Staying with the environment, the bill for an act to address the impact of climate change has passed second reading in the Senate. The bill, which was sponsored by Senator Issa Misau, seeks to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and promote the use of renewable sources of energy. Leading the debate, Senator Misau said in spite of Nigeria's participation in conferences and seminars on global warming, not much had been done to tackle the problem of gas flaring and other harmful environmental practices.
Nigeria is a major producer of fossil fuel, petroleum and coal. A study commissioned by the World Bank in 2007 indicated that Nigeria accounted for roughly 1/6 of the worldwide gas flaring, which in turn spews some 400 million tons of carbon dioxide, one of the greenhouse gases, into the atmosphere. Though the country has progressively reduced this emission, however, being a signatory to the Kyoto Protocol, there is yet no domestic legislation to ensure the sustainability of all international and domestic responses to these challenges. This bill sets target for the achievement of a reduction in greenhouse emissions, promote the use of renewable sources of energy, promote business and community understanding of issues surrounding climate change.
The two engineers, Oladile Ogundeji and Akimbala Fatiregun, alleged to be culpable in the construction of the collapsed guest house at the Synagogue Church of All Nations, have been granted bail by Justice Lateef Lawal Akapo of the Lagos High Court. The court granted the defendants bail in the sum of 10 million naira and two sureties in like sum. The sureties must be civil servants not lower than level 14 and with landed properties in Lagos. In addition, the sureties must provide 3 years evidence of tax payment and evidence of utility bills. The court also ordered the accused to submit their international passports. While delivering his ruling, the judge stated that he was inclined to exercise discretion in favor of the applicants because from antecedent, the applicants were likely attend their trial. Earlier, the defendants pleaded not guilty to the 111 count charges of gross negligence and criminal manslaughter brought against them by the state. Staying with legal issues, hearing in a petition filed by the governorship candidates of the All Progressives Congress, Temipire Silva, challenging the election of Governor Seriake Dixon, has been stalled due to wrong pagination of the petition. Lawyer to the petitioner requested a one-day adjournment to enable him reconcile the numbering of the pages before opening his case. Our correspondent Amaka Okafor has more.
The All Progressive Congress governorship candidate in Bayelsa State, Mr. Temipire Silva, and his supporters at the Election Petition Tribunal. Shortly after proceedings commenced at the tribunal, it stopped abruptly when parties in the case and even the judges realized that the court process was not properly numbered and that the first witness was not properly identified. This made counsel to Mr. Silva apply for a short adjournment to enable him correct the errors. His application was not opposed by the respondents and it was granted by the tribunal. But the tribunal turned down his application, asking that the day's sitting not be counted as part of the days granted his client to prove his case. The chairman of the tribunal agreed with the respondents that his inability to go on with his case does not cancel the fact that the day had been fixed for hearing, and should in case he requires more days, that will be considered at a later date.
There's no problem. It's not a big issue. As Wale Lanipekun for the PDP said, these are things that happen in the course of legal practice. So it's something that it's not a big issue. At least we have gone more than halfway in rectifying it.
They actually started but couldn't continue because they had some problems with their witnesses. And they asked for adjournment to come back tomorrow to put their house in order. And we felt we should accommodate them by not opposing the application for adjournment. But the court has decided that today is part of the number of days that they have to prove their case, and that is the justice of the case.
The All Progressive Congress and its governorship candidate are challenging the election of Governor Seriake Dixon as governor of Bayelsa State in the December 5th, 2015 and January 9th, 2016 governorship elections in the state. Amaka Okafor, Channels Television News.
Let's switch lanes now to business news with Anne Wawodo.
You first. First Bank.
Welcome to Business News. Economist and Chief Executive Officer of Financial Derivatives Company, Mr. Brismak Rewani, has advised the Buhari administration to remove some rigid policies and actions that are holding back strong economic activities. Speaking on Channel's television Business Morning program, Mr. Rewani says the government should return pioneer status to companies in some critical sectors that are capable of creating jobs and attracting local and foreign investments.
For government spending as well has been slow because there's been no budget, nothing announced. So slow government spending, right? Sterilization of stolen monies, no new investment, and so to a large extent the economy, like I said, constricted. What are you going to see? The budget will be signed in a few days. So government spending will start. But we need to go back. We need to go back to those policies. We need to incentivize investors. So, and I state categorically that you must incentivize, you must put those pioneer status. You cannot, at this time, remove pioneer status. You got to increase incentives so that investors can bring their money in. When I say investors, I'm talking about Nigerian, international, and retail investors investing in the market so that we can have economic activity.
And one of Nigeria's top lenders, United Bank for Africa, UBA, has announced plans to expand its operations into 25 African countries in the medium to long-term period. This revelation came at the end of the bank's inaugural Senior Leadership Forum in Lagos. The bank's chairman, Mr. Tony Elumelu, explained that the proposed expansion is driven by its intention to be the leader in African financial services. UBA also approved additional injection of capital into its East African subsidiaries in Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania in a bid to reaffirm its commitment to growth in countries of its operations around the continent. And it's a bullish start for equities as stocks went up by 3.20% at the close of trading today. Bolaji Akinwale tells us more.
And welcome to the Stock Market Report. The Nigerian equities market surged 3.20% in value after businesses resumed from the May Day holiday. The gains result from the buy sentiment across the consumer goods and industrial sectors. Over 220 million units of shares were transacted for a value of 1.5 billion naira in 3,474 deals. The All-Share Index closed at 25,865.50 with a market capitalization of 8.89 trillion naira. Market breadth settled with 33 advances against 12 decliners. Nestle led the pack with 10.25% gain. Eternal Oil inched up 10%, while Tiger Brands closed 8.91% uptake. On the other hand, Fort Oil declined the most by 9.75%, with over 18.95 million shares. Fidelity Bank's tailspinned 5.98%, and FCMB comes third. The banks boosted the volume of trades with Access Bank's over 200 million units, FCMB's 26.4 million, and FBN Holdings 89.03 million units. And that's it in the Stock Market Report. I'm Bolaji Akinwale.
Thanks a lot, Bolaji. The Abia State Board of Internal Revenue has sealed some companies for withholding taxes totaling about 30 million naira. Explaining the reasons for this enforcement, the executive chairman, Mr. Udochukwu Ubonna, says the companies were sealed off according to the orders of the judiciary. However, Mr. Ubonna has asked the companies affected to make their payments on time.
You know that tax is law. We cannot go beyond the law. We only seal those that we get orders from court. We have cases that are not yet decided. We wouldn't go and just seal. So it's only when we get judgment against the defaulter that we will act based on the order of court. And meanwhile, it's not us that is sealing, it's the court. They are all, if you are not complying, we go through the processes, and the processes are that we inform you, we come for a tax audit. When we do the tax audit, we communicate by way of demand notice.
And markets around the world closed today mostly in the red on impact of negative earnings reports. Let's take a look at some of those figures. And that's Business News Tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Uwawado. Back to you, Amarachi.
You first. First Bank.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Nigeria Basketball Federation names 3 NBA stars in its preliminary squad for the 2016 Rio Olympic Games. Stay with us for details in sports news.